Okay, this is part two of our Loot Crate rigging exercise. So first exercise, we rigged our Loot Crate without any um, skin or bones. Now we're going to learn what about skin and bones. So you can see that the Loot Crate is got the same pivots. It's all clean here. It's all clean here. I've detached it, so we have two different pieces. Uh, they're not attached anymore. Great. So what we need to do is create something called a skin or a joint system, a and a skin on it. What's really a bone system, but bones is patented by a different company. So Maya has named their stuff uh, joints. So if we go to the rigging tab here, where to go? There it is. You'll see all this wonderful stuff. And make sure you're in rigging here so that we can get to the skin modifier. What we first want to do is learn what a joint is. So this is the tool for creating joints. And like I said, joints are very much like skeletons. In fact, if I click down here and then click down here, you see it draws a shape from one dot to the next. Shape here, and then here. Um, Hit enter, and that terminates it. And you can see, if I zoom in a little bit, I now have this object. And much like we did with the box, right? If I select, and here I'll show you the hierarchy of it. This is joint one, there's joint two, joint three, and joint four. So very much like the crate, when we parented it together, these shapes are parented together. This joint is parented to this one, this joint is parented to this one, this joint is parented to this. And just like before, you can unparent them if you want and reparent them. Um, they're just like regular shapes. The only difference is that this isn't a real thing. This is just what you're seeing here, this joint, is really just a piece of math. It's a point on one end and a point on the other end, and math between it. This point here moves by aligning itself um, in an anchored position to this point. So if I rotate this point around, this point moves with it. Um, so in order for people to be able to not have their mind scrambled every time they tried to do this with just having the points, they've connected them with these little directional um, things called joints. So it's fatter on the parent end and skinnier on the child end. Fatter on the parent end, skinnier on the child end. And if we go up here to display, if yours are really tiny or super huge, you can go up here to display animation, joint size, and you can make them bigger or smaller. I'll make mine slightly bigger so you can see them easier. So once again, close that down. That is in, once again, display, animation, joint size. Okay. Um, Here we have the parent of the joint, the top one here, and you can see that I can crawl down them. And if I select this one and move it, it moves everything below this joint. And if I select this one and move it, it moves everything below that joint, and so on. Great. And you can see I've kind of made like an arm here, right? So this is the arm, this is the forearm, and then this is the hand. Um, and in fact, when we get into rigging bipedal objects, this is exactly what we'll do. But we're going to use our joint system here to rig this lid. Remember, what we want it to do is we want to be able to control this box here, and we want to be able to manipulate the lid open and close. So we need a joint here and something right in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those, and I'm going to start a new joint string by clicking up here, selecting joints. You'll see it highlights over here, and then I'm going to turn on 4 here. I'm going to zoom into a side view of my crate, and I want the one, that I'm going to put a point right in the middle of the crate. And that is going to be the one that controls the bottom of the crate. And then I'm going to come up here and I put one right here. And this is the joint that's going to control the lid. And now, for reasons that I'll explain in a bit, I need to put one through the bulk of the lid so that I have a place to attach it to. So that's our bone system for the lid, right? If when the lid is attached to this, I can rotate this up and it'll open. And in fact, I can very easily parent this silly lid to this bone and open it just like we did before. But that's not what we're going to do. It's not going to be that easy. Back that out. Okay, so in Maya meshes, this is a mesh, right? A mesh is an object, a group of polygons. This is a polygon here. A group of polygons formed together in a way that represents something, a person, a box, whatever. Polygons come in flat and you're able to sculpt them and bulge them and bend them and twist them and move them around in various ways in order to create shapes. So when they're all made into a shape, it's called an asset or a mesh. More commonly, when you're rigging, it's called a mesh because that differentiates it from the joints. So here are the joints over here, and here's the mesh. I'll spin over here so you can see it. For mesh and joints. All right, so and you can see here, if I go to a top view, my joints are not in the middle of my crate. So I'm going to zip them over there. And in fact, I have put the box on the crate thing on the wrong side. So now I need to select the top joint here. And I need to make sure that, see, right now I'm spinning towards the object. I need world to spin it by the world, because if I spin it by the object, it's going to be harder to do. So if I select this, I want it to be on the other side, so I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Now, do you need to reset the transforms on joints? No, you don't. They don't care. They have their own rules. It's good if you do, but you don't need to reset all the joints. If you want to make it easier for you, you can select just the top joint and go modify freeze transformations on that. And that'll get rid of all the rotations and stuff. Not the translations, but all the other stuff. And that makes it a little easier. Okay, so here's the front of the box. We got the key thing here. Here's the crate, and our joint is there. Now, one thing about joints is they're real stretchy. So if you want to, you can move these around all over the place, and it just stretches to wherever you are, and it doesn't really care. So it only the first one matters. The rest of them you can move however you want, because all the rest of them base their entire existence off the placement of that first one. Okay, so now we can come over here and I can put that right there, and I can come up here and move this so it skewers through quite a bit of the uppercase. And that's our mesh and our joint system. There's our joint system. There's our mesh system. We're ready to go. So in order to have these things connected, you have to tell them to use you have to kind of glue them together with something called a skin. So a skin attaches what are called vertexes to the bone system within an envelope distance. So for instance, this, you can't see it, but this bone has an envelope around, if I put a skin modifier on it, we'll have an envelope around it, and anything within that envelope will then be assigned to this thing. And it doesn't work on meshes. It works on a sub-object in meshes called vertex. So these are vertexes, and they're the little dots that are on the corners of a mesh. So once again, here's a face or a mesh, and then the little dots on the corner are here, right? And you can move these around. It all works pretty simply. So that's what when we go around, when we apply a skin modifier, it's going to apply that skin modifier to the vertexes. It's going to tell the vertexes to stick, like, hey, vertexes, you now belong to this joint here. So when I move this joint, you need to move with it. Okay, so let's do that right now. It's super easy. You have to make sure you have all the joints selected. You can't just select the top one. You have to select all of them, joint 1, 2, and 3. And it's really a good idea to name these, right? So joint 1, let's call that crate base. And joint 2, we'll call crate lid. And joint 3, we'll just leave joint 3 because it's like you have to have it so that this, because I need this to go to there, you have to have this, but it doesn't really need to be connected to anything. Okay, we really just need these two other ones. So I'm going to hold this down and select Shift, select all 3 of these. I'm going to press Control on my keyboard and also select these. If you go like this, you marquee select everything, it's only going to select the joints and just the top one because that's how it's set up to select in the hierarchy right now. And that's the default Maya one. So you need to select them here in the outliner. And then I'm going to come up here to the skin modifier, and I'm going to hit bind skin. Well, I'm going to open up the things. All this stuff you'll learn how to do later. For now, let's just hit apply and close. And so now what we've done is we've attached the chest to the joint. However, it doesn't always do a great job. So as you can see, just by moving that top bone, it doesn't really work. So we have to go in now and modify the mesh, this part here, to be assigned to the joint here. And we do that by selecting the mesh we'd like to modify, and then we're going to hit this button here, which is Paint Skin Weights. And when I select that, if I double click it, this modifier pops up, and you can see the bones, like, right? There's the crate lid, there's the crate base, here's that one little joint. We would like to have this entire top go to the crate lid. I'm going to go to 5. And so you can see here where it's kind of white, that's the area of effectiveness that this crate has. So the whiter it is, and I can paint it, right? The whiter it is, the more affected by the selected joint it is. And there's also, you can, all sorts of things. I can replace it, I can add it, I can smooth it, I can scale it. You can control the size of your stylus. Nobody really uses gradient, but you can, like if you want to paint it faster, you can make your stylus big and see the more. A good thing to do is to put animation on these so that you can see what you're doing. So let's close this down, back it out a second. Right, base lid, and put an animation on it just of there. Sorry, hold on. I put an animation on the wrong one. Okay. Both of you guys, S there. S there. Back here. Just grab the lid. Rotate it up. Okay. Now, and you can see that it's all kind of deforming. So what we'd like to do is to separate that. So if I go back here, right, and double click, I select the mesh I want. I'm going to select the bottom part because it'll be more noticeable when I do it. And then I'm going to double click this. There you can see now I have the base and I can do the animation. And as I come in here and paint it, it goes back down to where it's supposed to be. And it doesn't touch the top one because that's a separate piece. So this looks all crazy, but what I'm actually doing is called weight painting. And if you hit, and all I'm doing is I'm trying to hit all the vertexes with a little bit of paint so that it all goes back to, it should be sitting flat on the ground, right? So as we go through it, what do I have on replace? No, yeah, replace is good. And I can make my paintbrush a little bigger. And it'll grab a little more. And so I just kind of noodle. Sometimes they're hard to hit. And I'm just pressing the mouse button. It's just like an airbrush or something. Or like a paint can. You can hold it down. Sometimes you have to move around in order for it to see what you're doing. Sometimes these faces, because it's double walled, it's a little more difficult. Sometimes it's really hard to get a hold of the faces. Sometimes they're I see you. And see, so there. Now we've painted the bottom. And when we do the lid, you can see there's still a little bit weirdness going on here. And that's why it's good to have an animation so you can see actually what's happening. And if I turn off that, you can see that now the lid still is a little rubbery, but we'll fix that. So, oh, and there's a little bit more there. So let's first let's select the lid, and we'll do this the easy way. There's the thing: if you're doing a whole object and the whole object is attached to the bone, you can just hit flood. Oops, I hit the wrong I had the wrong thing selected. We want it there. Just hit flood. And now the whole lid is attached to that. And we can do the same if I close this down, select the bottom, open it back up again. Base, I can do flood there. And now it's moving perfectly. So this is called a rigged object. All these vertexes on the top piece are associated to this bone, and all the vertexes on the bottom pieces are associated to this joint. That's all the bottom pieces associated to this joint, the top pieces are associated to this joint, and now it rotates. Now, in order to move the whole thing, you would select, this is now the top. You don't select the mesh anymore. In fact, I don't think you can move the mesh. It freezes it once you put a skin on it. But you can move the box around by, I'm not sure what's happening, by moving the key. It kind of reverted. Oh, because I had animation on it. Oh, funny. There it goes. You can move the box around. My computer's having a hard time. There it goes, keeping up. It goes, wait, don't you want that? It's not really doing that. It's like a glitch. So now I can delete that. And if you want to move it around, you can move it around. It's not really doing that. I'm sorry that it looks like that for a second, but if you just move your mouse around a little bit, it will stop. And you can also do things like this too. So once you have this going on, um, you can move this bone translates as well. Come on, give me the actual picture. So you can see you can move them off or as far as you want. So if you had to blow this off, like, but uh, it was rigged together with a joint system, you could still get your you could still blow it off and have it land on the side and roll around or something if you needed to animate that way. You don't need to do a whole replacement lid and stuff, as long as it's not physically connected to the other one, which this one isn't. Then you can do that sort of stuff. Now, there will be times when the two things are physically connected, say like a mouth or something, and that's a lot harder to work with because you have to blend between the two. Like this is a hard we did like 100% to this and 100% to this. There's no in between. We didn't decide that, oh, some of this one is attached to this bone and some of this one is attached to this bone. All of this bone, all of this is attached to this joint. All of this is attached to this joint, 100%. In later in later videos, um, we'll talk about overlapping the the weight assignments in order to get kind of a squishy feel. Cool. So there you go, your first rigged crate. Good luck.